I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's Wednesday. .710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill where you get both sides. Wow, what a night for politics.
Yeah, some unexpected stuff, some stuff that was absolutely predicted.
Yeah.
And some people lost money on the poly market.
That's right. We're going to cover all of this, but Texas with some big changes. Jasmine Crockett out. James Talarico in on the Democrat side. Dan Crenshaw walks the plank in the Republican primary.
I knew he was underwater, but that one surprised me a little bit. That one surprised me. I can't figure out why he had done enough to get voted off the island. But oh well, I'm not in the camp, so you do you. That was a weird one.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. Steve Toth, T-O-T-H, will be the new Republican representing that district. Likely will win the general election, but defeats Dan Crenshaw. Steve, by the way, is a state rep. So Dan Crenshaw replaced, but Dan had taken a antagonistic approach to some aspects of MAGA, not just not supporting it, but actively fighting it, and that kind of put him in, I think, a tough spot. Did not have the endorsement of Donald J. Trump, and that matters in a Republican primary. So no more Dan Crenshaw in Congress as of this upcoming November election, and then January he'll be termed out. But yeah, that's big. John Cornyn, though, surviving. That was interesting.
Yeah,
he comes out top line, but it's going to have to run a primary, another primary against Paxton.
Yeah.
So,
and you were talking about Trump's endorsement. I was looking at this one. I think I have to check, but I don't know exactly what happened in Montana last night because Trump had endorsed a talk show host up there against the Republican Secretary of State. And it just popped into my head when you said the Donald Trump endorsement means a lot. I'm curious about whether or not that happened inside of Montana. And the only reason why is because I was reading about Montana politics, and a lot of the, longtime Republicans are like, well, we like the Secretary of State. I don't understand. And then Trump came in and put it on him. So I don't know. I'm going to have to look and see what those results were. But until you said that, I hadn't even thought about that because that was last night. To see what happens.
And how will this affect Colorado politics? We'll get into all of that here in the 6 o'clock hour. Jared Polis considering clemency for Tina Peters in a late-night tweet that, boy, sent Colorado politics into a tizzy.
And you thought he wasn't a drinker. Yeah, he is. Okay, I might be inventing that one, but given his rationale, yeah, he is.
It must be fun to be able to, at 8, 9 o'clock at night, just go, watch this.
Oh, yeah.
Click.
Yeah, exactly.
Send, and then turn off the phone and go to bed.
Yeah, and let them deal with that. Yeah.
Some big problems with money that was spent by the state of Colorado on autism therapy. Colorado now has to pay back $42.6 million to the federal government. Got our own little Minnesota fraud scheme happening here in Colorado. We'll get to that. Plus, a candidate for state senate will be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour. So, whole lot to cover today. Now is time, though, for the news.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good Wednesday morning, 35 and clear in Denver, 34 in the Springs, expecting highs in the low 60s today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning. For a new home heating and cooling system, contact your Lennox dealer. Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at pastorcamp.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. Our top story, there may be a Pentagon press briefing this morning, and indeed there is. They're getting ready for that right now in D.C. We're learning more about 4 of the 6 U.S. service members killed in the Iranian strike. All 4 were soldiers in the U.S. Army Reserve and based out of Iowa. 2 soldiers have yet to be identified. U.S. Central Command says more than 50,000 troops, 200 fighter jets, and 2 aircraft carriers are currently involved in operations in the Middle East. The president criticizing the UK and Spain for their reaction to the strikes on Iran.
President Trump said that Spain has been terrible and that he's instructed the Treasury Secretary to cut off dealings with Madrid. Spain's Prime Minister hasn't backed down after previously saying he rejected unilateral strikes by the US and Israel.
That's William Denslow. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said the UK does not support joining air operations again in Iran, while Spain said it would not allow the U.S. to use its air bases for operations, but the president says that they will anyway. The president says the U.S. Navy may start escorting oil tankers as gas prices start to rise in the U.S. On Tuesday, he posted the Navy may join the tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, if necessary. Nearly a fifth of the world's oil travels through the strait, and Iran says it will target any vessel using the narrow waterway. Tim Burchett from Tennessee with the answer of the day, responding to what Lindsey Graham said. Graham said that it's now time to bomb Lebanon.
Is now calling for the U.S. to start bombing Lebanon in response to the Hezbollah IDF action.
Lindsey hadn't seen a fist fight he hasn't wanted to turn into a bombing, right? So I just take it with a grain of salt, dude. Yes, ma'am.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
War.
Yeah, exactly.
War.
Drool. Absolutely. Governor Polis posted on X, as Jeff and Billy were talking about last night, the stark sentencing disparity between former state senator Sonia Jaquez Lewis and Tina Peters. Lewis was sentenced to only 2 years of probation and 150 hours of community service after an ethics investigation. Peters is serving a 9-year sentence for her role in the security breach at the local elections office on the Western Slope after the 2020 presidential race, of course. Polis says he may reconsider clemency for the former Mesa County clerk. Polis argues that they share a conviction for the same offense, attempting to influence a public official. And the guys will talk about this coming up. A Colorado fugitive was hospitalized after an officer-involved shooting Monday night in Florida. Authorities said that 72-year-old Thomas Steffens was wanted on sex assault and related warrants in Grand Junction when a U.S. Marshals task force located him in Vero Beach. Deputies said Steffens opened fire and officers returned fire, striking him multiple times. A U.S. Marshal was also shot in the leg and later released from the hospital. We go to the Pentagon right now and see what Hegseth is talking about here.
See Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it. B-2s, B-52s, B-1s, Predator drones, fighters, controlling the skies, picking targets. Death and destruction from the sky. All.
So that's going on right now. We'll keep you updated on that. The investigation into the Davis mortuary has cost Pueblo County taxpayers about $762,000 so far. County commissioners voted Tuesday to extend the emergency declaration tied to the funeral home, where state inspectors alleged decaying bodies were found. Officials said the state agreed to cover up to $300,000, leaving the county responsible for about $462,000. Commissioners said much of the cost came from roughly 25 DNA tests that are priced at $10,000. each. The Avalanche dominate the Ducks last night 5-1. The Lakers at the Nuggets tomorrow night. 34 in the Springs, 35 in Denver, and that's the latest on Blake Olson. More of the Jeff and Bill Show ahead on News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver, and now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
A Pacific cold front rolling through the region is going to bring some cooler, cloudier weather to the Front Range and even a little bit of shower activity, especially for the Denver area today. A little bit less in the way of shower activity south to Colorado Springs, but all of the I-25 corridor can expect cooler temperatures, more in the way of clouds, and a few showers around through evening. Temperatures will be cooler. Upper 40s to lower 50s today, lows tonight in the lower 30s. Now, for Wednesday and a good part of Thursday, temperatures rebound back to mild spring weather. Daytime temperatures will go right back into the 60s. Thursday night, rain and snow showers late, a better chance of rain and snow with a secondary storm system, this one stronger and colder. So rain and snow chances will be going up along the Front Range for Friday into Friday evening, starting as early as Thursday night. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, Jasmine Crockett takes the L last night, losing to James Talarico in a Senate primary in Texas. Bill, what do you make of this?
I'm not as surprised as I was with some of the other ones. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Talarico had done a good job making him less of a firebrand based on just his delivery, what he was doing, how he was engaging in both interviews and town halls. Jasmine Crockett gave the impression of someone that was just, at times, making a spectacle and more about, I would say, more about the social media and the media presence than doing the work that those voters inside of Texas wanted. Now, if she was out of New York, California, I think she wins in a walk-off, but that's not Texas. And I don't think that even though she was elected as a Democrat out of Texas, that that's what those Texas Democrats were hoping and praying for out of their representation. I think they were looking for someone that was a bit more measured rather than someone that seemed to be focused on, again, getting that media attention, getting those clicks. She seemed at times to be focused on making a spectacle, and we've had other people inside of Congress doing that as well, and it hasn't always worked out for them. Some of them have been able to turn it into somewhat of a gig. Some of them have just made it their whole thing, and then that's George Santos. And now he's a Prince of the World or something else, and he's won his 7th Peace Prize. Or I don't know what else he's lying about, but now you can get him on Cameo. So, yeah, what do you think about it? What do you think about Talarico beating Crockett?
I don't know if Crockett can still run for Congress. Like in Colorado, you can only run for one office at a time. So if you choose to run for one, you're essentially giving up your other office. I don't know if
That's
we're done with
interesting.
Crockett. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm looking around, and it's not clear to me online whether or not we've just watched the end of Jasmine Crockett's congressional career.
Yeah, and I know that the Democrats want to do something with her, but if she's not in office, that becomes more difficult. Where do you place her? And especially since they're out of power. It was easy to take Mayor Pete and plant him inside transportation secretary. I mean, that's what they're doing with Secretary of Road Rules right now. Same thing. So they plant him there, you give him a little bit of, gravitas, and then you hope that they can turn it into something else afterwards. So, yeah, I don't know where they'd put him out of her. I don't know what they do with her right now.
I don't think James Talarico has a chance. If you think Beto O'Rourke had a chance and they kept propping this guy up and bringing him back one more time, remember the guy that was, hell yeah, we're going to take your AR-15s. And then you bring the guy who his qualification is that he's a seminarian. All right. Allow for me just a second of personal privilege with regards to that as a seminarian.
Yes.
Okay. I went to probably the world's largest seminary, Fuller Seminary, which is in Pasadena, California, and they've got kind of a global campus. And I remember distinctly telling my friends and family that a good third of the people in the entire place should not be in seminary. They were not serious about actually taking on the role of being a pastor.
Yeah.
And in fact, you had some people that had become Christians like 3 weeks prior to applying for seminary. So they were like, you know, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run off to seminary. And then they have a challenging time because it's academically rigorous. But then you've got to deal with things like the Bible just didn't fall out of the sky, right?
Yeah.
It's a manuscript and there's debate over text and all that stuff. So, so there's a good portion of people that, and then I find it ironic that the Democrats are touting a seminarian after running around saying that Christian nationalism is so terrible, with a guy who says Christian nationalism is so terrible, while also talking about how he wants to bring his faith into guiding the laws he's going to write, which is the whole argument behind Christian nationalism, is that our nation should reflect our Christian values. So there's a tremendous amount of hypocrisy here. There's quotes out there of James Talarico talking about how God is non-binary. You're going to run a guy in Texas who's going to make quotes like God is non-binary. We're right back to the Kamala Harris sex change operations for illegal immigrants type of stuff. This guy is going nowhere. Now, John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, we'll have to see how that plays out. The primary will be in May. But this is Beto O'Rourke 2.0 all over again. Or in fact, now it's Beto O'Rourke 3.0 because they tried Beto twice. It didn't work. Texas is not going to elect boring liberal beta males.
Well, the thing that I find interesting about Talarico is now I don't think the Democrats are very intelligent strategically in running elections. I think they make a lot of mistakes, many times, many of them unforced errors. This is one I think is smart, though, because I think they've picked a very palatable candidate for that area and region. And if people have... No, you don't think so. So if
not
people
palatable? No
yeah,
way.
No, so the idea that he's a seminarian, the idea that he talks about religion, that doesn't help at all inside of that district in that area.
Not the way he does it, because what you're getting is like United Methodist or Episcopalian. So the attendance into those denominations has plummeted. And everybody's aware of what those types of churches are, where they sit around and they chant about how terrible ICE is, and then they have their transvestite strip shows. Everybody knows what those types of churches are. It's not going to play in Texas, and that's what they got. They got one of these progressive guys that in his mind, Jesus is basically a hippie that was tolerant of everybody and everything that happened and never said anything mean towards anybody, and that's the way we need to live our lives. We just need to tolerate people more, and that's why nobody attends these churches because it's not true.
I haven't heard Talarico's Christianity and speaking on enough to say whether or not I agree or disagree with that. I have no idea, so I'll let it go and just agree with you. I have no clue. I have no relevance that can show that he doesn't do that, so I don't know. The reason that I think he's palatable is Donald Trump's underwater. He's at 36% approval, and there are some districts inside of Texas where his approval numbers are not good. That's why I think it is smart strategically, because running someone like a Crockett, who's more of a firebrand, is more off-putting for people that might be a little bit upset with the direction that Donald Trump has. If I'm looking at Donald Trump being the guy that promised me he's going to release the Epstein files, the guy that promised me that my grocery prices were going to go down, the guy that promised me my energy bills were going to drop by 50%, the guy that promised me peace, the guy that promised me no more wars, I just might, at that point, pull the lever for a guy that's a seminarian, simply because I'm upset with some of the direction here. Now, if I'm hardcore MAGA, no, that's going to happen, because Donald Trump is MAGA and MAGA is Donald Trump. Whatever Donald Trump says goes. He can change from pro-war to anti-war on a daily basis, and MAGA will follow him. But those people that came over and in certain areas gave Trump the win are still persuadable. And that's why I think Talarico is a smarter tactical play than Jasmine Crockett is, because some of those people that are disaffected with the president of peace may actually say, well, I got to make a different choice. And because he's a seminarian, that can give a lot of people a permission slip.
I went to seminary with a lot of guys like him. In fact, it was the dominant ideology at the seminary, and it's a very progressive. And in fact, it's these guys that made me a conservative, because I was around so many of them, including the professors. And I'm sitting there going, like, what in the world are they talking about? That, like, the worst thing in the world is an entrepreneur who makes money. I'm like, come on, guys. Because what they have done is they start with socialism. They then wrap Jesus around socialism, and they feel like that's the most compassionate way to lead in this world. And you end up with these types of theologies, like liberation theology is one of these, right? Where Jesus came that there might not be any rich person ever, and the government should take all the money and redistribute it equally. This became popular in Latin America and all this stuff. There's a group out there called Sojourners, which in the political realm embodies this. And at the end of the day, it's just socialism. If you take socialism and try to wrap Jesus around it, it's still socialism. At the end of the day, what you're trying to do is confiscate people's wealth by using a gun, the power of the government. You're then going to redistribute that wealth via government programs. There's no sense of personal responsibility in their world. There's no sense of community care, of civic responsibility, of loving your neighbor outside of creating another government program to do so. So I've been around a lot of these guys. James Talarico is right out of who these guys are. And at the end of the day, they're still going to rely on a government program funded by taking people's money via taxes. And they believe that is the most compassionate thing you can do. It's just socialism. I don't see it working in Texas. All right. Feel free to join the conversation. Jump in 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capless Law text line at 720-819-5115. That's 720-819-5115. Let's get to a break here, and then we'll get to Tony. You'll be up next. Folks, my wife and I have been talking about updating our home for a while, and we took a great step with Guy Rees. In fact, we had such a wonderful experience with Guy Rees, we're going back for a second time to help do another part of our house. Guy Rees has locations all over the Denver metro area. We went to the one in Parker where we get to sit down with a professional designer who showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. I was a little overwhelmed at first. I've never worked with a design pro, but she walked us through everything and helped us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Guy Rees has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. And here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come directly to you, so you can get the same expert advice right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit GuyRees.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Guy Rees. You'll be sure to thank me. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on FM 101.1 along with AM 1460, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
.710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show where you get both sides. We're talking the primary results from Texas yesterday. Some big news. Dan Crenshaw losing his seat to a state representative in a primary. That's a fascinating seat in itself, Bill. My wife used to work for Ted Poe, who was the judge prior to Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah.
So he was a famous judge because he did the alternative sentencing things, where, for instance, you had to stand outside a store you stole something from, and hold a sign saying, "I stole from this store,"
Yeah, which has its merits.
Yeah, right.
It really does have its
so
merits.
he was a famous judge who finished his speeches, and she would write his speeches and stuff for legislative floor speeches, and he goes, "And that's just the way it is." Kind of old Texas judge type of guy.
Oh, yeah.
But prior to him was Charlie Wilson.
Oh,
So this is Charlie Wilson's seat.
That's
that
crazy.
Dan, if you ever saw the movie with Tom Hanks and
Charlie Wilson's War.
And now Dan has lost that. What does it mean with regards to MAGA and their control? Because people called him Eye Patch McCain, for instance.
They could, and Woods, and in the other one with Talarico, does Talarico's seminary credentials give him just enough permission for some of those disaffected Republicans or unaffiliated? I'm not talking MAGA. Y'all are going to vote for whoever he tells you to. But the others out there, does it give them just enough permission?
Not a Baptist, but maybe some of the other ones.
Nicely done.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Tony in Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I don't know if you've had a chance to see Talarico speak in an interview.
Yeah.
I remember when Buttigieg emerged and he had less than 1%. I got interested in him. I went and watched about 30 interviews, and I was just like, wow, I thought this guy's really good. And I've kind of tried to do the same thing with Talarico. I've seen him speak in 2 long interviews about everything, but about his faith and what that means to him. One was with Ezra Klein, and I think the other one was with David Frum, the Republican from the Bush administration, now on his podcast. He's got an interesting approach. He when he talks about his faith, he takes Jesus' teachings literally. He tries to live by those and acknowledges he fails every single day because you love your enemy, and he said that is hard to do, and I fail at it, and every day I try to get better, and that's what his faith is about. It's about character to him, and he gives the example of he's got a couple things that he'll tell on when he gets on the campaign, where he's passed 2 pieces of legislation. One, that he got a Republican to join him, and another one that a Republican got him to join him on something he didn't think he'd even believe in. But the guy was sincere. He made his case, and so together they passed a couple pieces of legislation. I can't remember what they were. But simply that's a part of his story. He absolutely believes in the separation of church and state, and he makes that case and articulates why that is the way it is. So his
do you think he believes
it
though? Because here's what he's saying at the same time. We need to separate church and state, and I want to be elected to office, and I believe in the teachings of Jesus.
That's all. But what I'm telling you, he does, but he's saying that's not to be his. That's not to shape his policy as much as it's to shape his character. And he believes
character's
that
one thing, but I want to know what his policies are. So you're telling me that Jesus Christ is so important to this guy that he's not going to take any of the values into actually writing the laws.
He would say, when you have people that are hungry, we can't fix every problem, but we sure shouldn't ignore them, because Jesus would not want us to ignore them. We should be thinking about what we can do.
And Tony, what's his solution to feeding people?
We can't do. You know what? I can't. I'm only sharing with you, since you hadn't sounded like you had a chance to hear him yet.
I've listened to a lot of what I picked up on him a year or two ago, and I've listened to a lot of his interviews. Look, Tony, at the end of the day, and this is what I said earlier, It's just socialism. It's just wrapped up in Jesus. His
one other
solution,
thing.
James Talarico's solution to feeding the poor is going to be a government program that taxpayers pay for.
That's not what he said. That's not what I heard him say. But maybe you have. I haven't heard him say that. The one thing, and I don't know if it means anything to you. You may be aware he did one of those Joe Rogan 3 hours.
Yep.
And Joe Rogan, when he was done, Joe Rogan said, "Man, you need to run for president." And I mean, that's how Joe Rogan got wrapped around him, and I don't watch Joe Rogan, so I don't watch him, so I don't know what that means. I know he seems to be popular on the Republican side, maybe not the MAGA side. I think he's popular.
But Tony, how is James Talarico any different than Jimmy Carter? Because we've seen this before. This isn't kind of a new guy with like a really amazing new way to think about politics. This guy's just like Jimmy Carter was.
You ought to invite him.
Yeah, we should.
You ought to invite him. He's the type he'll do anybody's. He absolutely believes in working across the aisle. You ought to maybe bring him in and let it find out what you think of him. Let him take some calls from your callers.
Yeah.
The one thing you're going to find is he's just a very kind and sincere and gentle person, and it seems
Jimmy
to work
Carter.
for him.
All right, Tony, I appreciate it. I understand the excitement that progressives have because he can talk about religion, because a lot of progressives can't even they're so uncomfortable with religion that they can't navigate through a conversation about it at all. And James Talarico, I'm not judging his salvation by any means, but I get the appeal. But if you think this is anything new in American politics, we already elected a president just like this guy. His name was Jimmy Carter, and he led with the kind of tolerance, the belief that Jesus was kind of a early, hippie that just walked around and was like the most tolerant guy you can imagine, and he just happened to be killed because he was so tolerant, which is a misreading of the New Testament. But that's pushed out there. There's entire denominations that believe this: the Episcopal Church, United Methodist Church, the Presbyterian Church USA, which I used to be a member of, Peace USA. This is all right in line with, if we just are more tolerant to people, that's the problem, that Christians just haven't been tolerant. So we just need to be more tolerant. And nobody attends their churches because they eventually kind of collapse into progressive politics. And this is why you get the no ICE protests that come from some of these folks, or there's some really weird ones out there with, celebrating the fact, and James Talarico is one of these guys. God is non-binary. So you end up, you become so tolerant that you essentially don't teach anything, because anything might offend somebody out there. And so you just end up becoming essentially a progressive political realm.
I think the issue, the conversation right now seems to be focusing on whether or not Talarico is the right form of Christian. And I think that we're forgetting that a lot of these people that we are saying couldn't possibly vote for this guy because his particular flavor of Christianity isn't the right one, flipped the switch numerous times for Trump. Not a Christian dude at all. There's nothing there that shows anything even close to Talarico's level of Christianity. So what I'm talking about is it being a permission structure, that whether or not you agree that he is the right form, right flavor, or agree with his take on Christianity, it's a permission structure. Because as soon as Donald Trump surrounded himself with a whole bunch of evangelical preachers, that became a permission structure for them to vote for him. And I think it's incredibly interesting inside of Texas as far as how and when they decide religion is important to them. In this conversation right now we're having, it talks about James Talarico. Is he the right form and is he the right flavor of the Christianity that they will accept inside of Texas? Remember, Texas is the state that passed a state law mandating the 10 Commandments be placed in schools. And the 10 Commandments was placed in schools because it was supposed to provide moral and ethical guidelines, also a little bit of the foundational principles in which our judicial system and our country is founded upon. And yet those voters multiple times have elected Ken Paxton, a dude who broke number 6. On the list, number 6. And yet he's reelected to be the dude that is enforcing the laws in Texas. The people that want to put the laws that we supposedly founded our country on the walls in the schools, then go to the voting booth and flip the switch to the dude that breaks one of them. That's why his wife is divorcing him. They have the receipts on his love nests. They have the text messages and the messages he left her. He's currently stepping out with a woman that is a mother of 7. Yet somehow all those people that thought it was vitally important for those little kids to see those 10 commandments have no issues putting the dude that broke number 6 in as the AG. In fact, it is so unconsequential to them that he nearly unseats Cronin in the primary, and they're now headed for a runoff. So I am not convinced at all that religion is going to be the defining reason that someone pulls that lever for either a Republican or a Democrat, because it seems like their religion is completely and totally negotiable based on who they want to support. And I think with Talarico, because he's got the seminary background, it gives those people that are angry permission, just like the evangelicals surrounding Trump gave other people permission to vote for him. Same thing. It's a permission structure.
I understand the permission structure, and I think there's aspects of that where I think you're right. What I spoke to with regards to Republicans in Texas, when I spoke with them, here was the kind of conundrum they found themselves in. John Cornyn isn't delivering as an ally of Trump should in the Republican Party. Okay, they're frustrated. They're frustrated about that. Okay?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you help me define that? What do they mean? Because my research says that over 95% of the time, probably closer to 98 to 99% of the time, he votes with Trump. So help me understand, because I'm looking at that too. Help me understand what that means.
I don't know specifics. I'm telling you what's been referred to me by people that are in Texas. This is how they feel. Okay. So they feel like Cornyn isn't the ally Trump should have representing Texas, okay? And maybe it's his fighting spirit. Maybe it's 1 or 2 bills. I don't know. But that's what they're communicating to me. Secondly, they're looking at Wesley Hunt, he missed half his votes, I think. So there's an uneasiness about this guy. Like, what is he doing if he's missing half his votes in Congress? And so they weren't happy about that. And then you had Paxton, who's got the fighting spirit they like, right? He's willing to take on particular issues and really drive them, be kind of that honey badger in the ring, but they don't like his personal life. It's not that they're ignoring it, but that's the place that they're in, where they're looking at 3 choices. One guy they feel uneasy about, he's missing half his votes and didn't do well last night at all, didn't make it into the next level of the primary. And so you're between 2 guys, one that, I don't know John Cornyn's personal life, but it's not as scandal-ridden as Ken Paxton is. That's clear.
He hasn't been investigated for bribery or charges of corruption or security fraud, all of which Paxton's been investigated for.
Yeah, investigation's one thing, though. Conviction's another. We know how politics is.
Yeah, and the DOJ dropped some of those. I wonder why. Let's try.
So you have one guy where you don't feel like he's aligned with the leader of the party the way you want him to be fighting at that level. On the other hand, you got a tough fighter, but he's got a personal problem. And people are always like, well, in politics, you're choosing the lesser of 2 evils. I'm like, yeah, unless the candidate is Jesus Christ, you are, in every case, going to be choosing between the lesser of 2 evils. So what's more important to the voter? Well, it seems like it's kind of a 50-50 split in Texas right now. So
and so it means those commandments that we place on the walls in the schools in Texas are negotiable based on politics, based on what we want to achieve in politics.
But are you
can negotiate.
Are you saying then, though, that anybody who violates those shouldn't be electable?
What I'm saying is those that think it is so important to place inside the schools are the same people, strangely enough, that are willing to vote for someone who breaks one of those commandments. I'm calling bupkis on it. The idea that you think it's so important.
All of them, almost on a daily basis.
But the issue is that we are providing guidance and leadership for the young ones, yet when we step out of that school setting, their parents are willing to put somebody in that openly breaks them. That is hypocrisy. I'm not advocating
I don't
to
think
put.
that's hypocrisy.
Oh, it's 110%.
No way.
It's 110%.
Well, one, I don't think we can get through a day without breaking any one of
110%.
those, let alone probably all of them. I mean, Jesus,
How often? Okay,
Jesus
hang on a
said
sec.
if you lust after a woman, you've committed adultery with her in your heart.
But we have proof positive he did way more than lust. So what you're doing is you're trying to rationalize this. It's not.
I'm not trying to
It's not.
rationalize
Yes, you
it.
are. You're trying to say, well,
you're
if
saying
someone
it's
lusts.
hypocrisy to vote for somebody. It's hypocrisy to
Yes.
put the 10 Commandments up on the wall and then to vote for somebody who's broken one of them. And what I'm pointing out
Yes.
is we can't get through a day without any of us breaking at least one, probably not nearly all of them on a daily basis.
How many
So
times?
who
How
do
many
you
times?
elect at that point?
Hang
Are
on.
you saying you can't put the 10 Commandments up?
How many times have everybody been breaking 6 throughout the course of the day? And isn't that the entire reason that we jumped up and down on Bill Clinton's head for months and months and months and tried to impeach him based on that number 6? And yet we want to put the guy in Senate from the state that wants to put the 10 Commandments on the walls in the schools. It is hypocrisy at its core that at the time we will say these mean so much to us inside the school, but when we watch into the voting booth, it's on the
Bill,
negotiable.
6206 sums it up perfectly. Billy, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, so saying it's hypocritical to vote for a man who broke the 6th commandment is disingenuous. Everyone has broken the commandments. To your logic, no one would vote for anyone.
You're missing the point. I'm not saying you can't vote for people that break the commandment. I'm talking about individuals that claim it is so necessary to place them in the schools as a guiding factor, then ignore that same guiding factor when you go to the voting booth. If you want to use that as a guide, how come it's not a larger influence when you're choosing your candidates? That's what I'm asking. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm perfect, nor am I saying everybody is. What I'm saying is the guide that you claim to want to show the kids is the exact same one that you say is negotiable based on personal politics and the moment. That's hypocrisy. Done.
All right, join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. Oh, we just got piles there, huh? Yeah, give us a call. We'll be back in a sec for the silly stuff. This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show where you get both sides. And boy, do we have both sides. Billy and I both being called hypocrites by the phone, the text messages.
Yeah.
We'll get to this and more.
That's how it makes it different. This is good.
Rita, jump in. We'll continue the conversation in the next hour as well. But Billy, let's take some time to do You Choose the News.
Yes, it's the time for the silly stuff. Once Jeff and I found out that we are left unsupervised until 7 a.m. in the morning, we are going to take full advantage. This is America's favorite fake radio news game show. It is You Choose the News. I have gathered these really dumb stories from the interweb this morning. Took me only mere moments, and then I slapped really dumb headlines on top of them so that we can play this fake radio news game show. And oh, I hope he's awake already. Shout out to my buddy Mark that came out and saw me do bar trivia last night. Love you, man. That was really cool to see you. And we even showed each other pictures of our snakes. It was not in the bathroom. Stop thinking about that. It was out in the public. It was okay. Anyway, gentlemen, Blake Olson, as always, joins us from the newsroom, and Jeff is in the studio. Here are this morning's headline choices. Headline number 1, being first. Again. Headline number 2, there is no spoon. Headline number 2, new stylist. And headline number 3, you can't see me. Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Let's start with there is no spoon.
Yes, there is no spoon.
And by the way, if you notice the glitch in the Matrix, Billy counted to 3 and then 2 twice.
And then 2 twice. It was a little mess. So, a little messy this morning. All righty, here we go. There is no spoon. Australian biotech startup Cortical Labs has crossed another boundary in biological computing. The latest hardware platform, the CL1, is using living human neurons as the core of its functionality for the computer. Yes, it's now capable of running the OG game Doom. It is the first commercial system from the researchers who wowed the tech world just a few years ago by teaching a cluster of 800,000 neurons to play Pong. Now, unlike simulated neural networks like the AI stuff, these are actual neurons that are cultured from skin or blood cells taken from adult donors, then reprogrammed into inducing pinpoint stem cells, and then they're differentiated into cortical brain cells. They then are organized into groups, and they're now playing Doom. This is how it happens in the Matrix, and we become the batteries. Just saying, this is the first step. So just warning everybody, take your own precautions. Remember which pill to take. Okay, now, Blake Olson.
Get right with Jesus.
Blake, your choice, sir. Being first, again, new stylist, or you can't see me?
Being first again.
Yes, being first again. It's another win here in the Mile High City. The coffee joint here in town made history back in 2018. It was the very first licensed cannabis lounge. But then the Denver venue took its last sip just February 25th. Now it's on to mushrooms. Woohoo! Colorado state law bans locations and addresses from holding both a cannabis business license and the magic mushroom license at the same time. So according to the co-owners, they decided they're down with the pot and they're up with the mushrooms. They're much more fun.
By the way, do you see they're going to do psilocybin speed dating there?
Yeah, that's the thing, is they're going to do microdosing, so everybody tell Elon, because he's a fan of that, and they're going to have them dose up and then do things like dating, yoga, painting classes, or, you know, since they're just tripping, they may just stare at the wall for a while. I don't know.
Could you imagine speed dating? I'm really connecting with
really
you.
Good,
You're
yeah.
talking to a houseplant.
Yeah, exactly. But she's so pretty, and she gets me. Okay.
The tempo would be kind of slow, though, wouldn't it?
It would be, yes.
Ding!
Yeah,
Waves
the thing
of the universe.
is, nobody changes chairs, but every time they think they're talking to a different person. Okay, now, Jeff, here's the thing. New stylist, or you can't see me.
You can't see.
Okay, you can't see me.
Beautiful.
Waterford Township, Michigan. A man's accused of damaging license plate readers in Waterford Township. He's now facing charges because one of the readers caught his license plate before he went up and did smashy smashy. They also had other security cameras around there, but he was damaging the license plate readers, and he was caught on the license plate reader before he broke it. That's how they caught him. I know. Down with technology. Okay, that's the end. You choose the news.
All right, coming up, we'll continue our conversation about the Texas primaries. What does that mean for our political races this fall? Plus, Jared Polis with the tweet heard around the world last night. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you're both sides. We'll be right back.